Greetings, history buffs and everyday seekers of knowledge. Welcome to Old News, a year in review podcast that rewinds the reels to a given year to revisit the stories that made headlines, the trends that captivated, and the key moments that defined each unique year. Let's be honest, we're in an age of information overload, where news cycles spin faster than a hopped up critter on a hamster wheel. So it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of the now. But sometimes taking a step back and revisiting the past is the only way to understand the present and prepare for the future. I am your host, Andrew Van Timmeren. Like many of you, I try to stay up to date and knowledgeable on current events. But oftentimes that I read or listen to the news, I can't help but think about how we've been here before. And that's really twofold. On one hand, it's easy to perceive, especially for your younger generations, that the world is coming to an end and the present time is the worst that has ever been. But if you look back at events like the Crusades, the Black Death pandemic, World War I, and the following Spanish flu, the Great Depression, World War II, and the Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide in 1994, and of course the Detroit Lions 0-16 season in 2008, you can see clearly that times have been worse. According to most objective metrics, this is the best time to be alive. With respect to life expectancy, eradication of diseases, low poverty rates, literacy, and access to education and information, even human rights and equality. While conflicts still exist, the percentage of the global population dying in wars is significantly lower than it was in the prior few centuries. In most parts of the world, you are far less likely to be a victim of violence today than at any other point in history. But continuous improvement and progress is the way it should be, right? Because on the other hand, many aspects of life are regressing, going backward, despite every opportunity, technology, resource, and knowledge at our disposal. So when we see things pointed in the wrong direction, I think it's our responsibility to recognize what's happening, and especially to understand how it relates to similar mistakes we've allowed to happen in the past. And that is the theme of this podcast. Call back to the Spanish-American philosopher George Santayana, who in his 1905 work, The Life of Reason, wrote, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." His point was about human progress. He argued that if we don't retain our experiences, we remain in a state of perpetual infancy, unable to build upon what came before. It is the very nature of learning and evolution. This quote was later popularized by the Great Ideas of Western Man advertising campaign in the 1960s. But it is the famous orator Winston Churchill who is frequently credited with the paraphrase of "Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it." In a speech to the House of Commons in 1948, reflecting on the lessons of the World Wars, what he said to Parliament was, "I have always urged that we should look forward. I have always done my best to do so, but we must also look back. It is only by studying the past that we can understand the present, and it is only by understanding the present that we can hope to foresee the future. It is because of this that I am obliged to dwell for a few moments on the past, because it is the only way in which we can get our bearings for the future, and because it is the only way in which we can understand the full meaning of the problems with which we are now confronted." Whomever originated these insights, their relevance in today's world is undeniable. So in this podcast, we'll be your tour guide through history, unearthing the gems of news that might have gotten buried under the avalanche of the latest tweet, TikTok trend, or clickbait headlines. We'll revisit political upheavals, cultural revolutions, scientific breakthroughs, and technological advancements, hopefully revisit some memorable nostalgic moments, and maybe even shed a tear or two over the heartwarming or heartbreaking stories. This isn't just a trip down memory lane. It's a critical examination of the year that was. I encourage you to explore the connections between past, present, and future, and ask the tough questions that need to be asked. After all, that's how we make sure we don't stumble into the same old traps, right? Old news can be listened to in chronological order, or feel free to bounce around to years of interest. Maybe you want to find what happened on the year you were born, or recall the year you graduated high school. Note that to keep the episodes in order, the older years will sometimes be backdated. So please keep checking back for new, meaning old, episodes. This podcast is artfully curated with the help of AI. It's also diligently fact-checked to deliver the most accurate and unbiased content possible. I hope you enjoy learning and listening as much as I enjoy the learning and creating. Please follow, rate, review, and share. But most importantly, stay curious.